Okay, the main difference between the last video and this video is that this one is about urban logistics and how it affects operational tempos, whereas the last two were about rural logistics. Now, here is a map of downtown Phoenix. And you see the red zone, which was the new headquarters for the Chi-Com political establishment, economic and also colonial and military establishments. And they had some megafobs in the area, like the Sky Harbor megafob, also mentioned in story 2, the story called New Story Invasion. Now, this is a plane which, like in the rural Broken Bow story, they used the airstrips at the airports as a way to bring in logistics and supplies. And these dashes here are helicopter logistics because they had aviation assets here as well. By aviation, I mean helo-borne assets, as there was an aviation regiment belonging to the Chi-Com group armies in this area that settled into the megafobs and also to occupy the red zone, among other places. Now, the way they got logistics out to their far-flung combat outposts, and there were way more as they dotted the entire cityscape. These are just the ones closest to the Sky Harbor megafob in the red zone here. They also used sports stadiums as other types of fobs, as not all fobs were airports, but they were just preferred to be airports because they could bring in logistics via plane, like in the Broken Bow story. In this urban story, the second story called New Story Invasion, they also used trucks and convoys to get logistics, which is this straight line here, and they use the highways also for that as well, to bring them in and out of the red zone and to shuttle them to combat outposts and into the megafobs and out of megafobs. It goes both ways. Now, these megafobs and places like the red zone were huge, ginormous hubs of logistics. They supplied all the units out at the other garrisons, like the combat outposts and patrol bases and such. Now, Partisan logistics were much more different by comparison. They used underground logistics, but they also used some above ground logistics. Now, keep in mind, inside of an urban environment, they are unable to really use vehicles to the extent that they were used in the rural Broken Bow story. Logistics by the partisans were mostly carried from their underground base camps to above ground, and you see some of these above and underground logistical networks. You see this darker green is above ground, and you see how they generally try to avoid these combat outposts in the red zone and other built-up Chi-Com areas of occupation. And what they would do is that they use the underground tunnels, maintenance tunnels, sewers, drainage pipes, everything that went underground, and the basements of rubbled buildings, which sort of served as a way to get above ground besides just manholes, manhole covers. They would come above ground and they would meander between all the rubble to avoid Chi-Com patrols, Chi-Com combat outposts, and Chi-Com air assets if possible, because rubble could sometimes shield them if they were camouflaged well enough, or if they knew when it was safe to cross from rubbled area to rubbled area. I mean, it was a crazy environment, and Chi-Com patrols were frequent because you would have things like these Chi-Com patrol bases. Now, I'm using this visual from the third story, but it's the same concept because this was in Wichita, Kansas. This was like a patrol base, and it was built amid the rubble. They used the rubble as fortification, and they put a watchtower up in it. They also use sandbags and emplacements for machine guns, and they put a bunch of concertina wire around it, and they circled the wagons, so to speak, with their vehicles, using them as like guard platforms for guarding the perimeter, as well as their watchtowers built in the rubble, and sandbag machine gun emplacements. Now, this is a patrol base, and what they could do is they could send a platoon out, maybe 2 platoons, and they might leave 1 to guard the patrol base, or maybe 2 if it was a 4-platoon company, like a larger company. What they might do is they might send out between 4 to 8 vehicles, which would be 1 to 2 platoons, to do patrols in the area. Now, and while leaving 1 or 2 to guard the patrol base. Now, this exact thing would be going on here in Phoenix, and this is just downtown Phoenix. This isn't the whole city. This is just the combat outposts and the mega fobs and the red zone in the area. And you see this plane icon is the air traffic bringing in logistics again, and this is road traffic, and this is helicopter traffic. And that is how they would sustain their operations outside the wire, so to speak, as we used to say in Iraq. They would have the helicopters bringing in logistics, and you can see these Z-20 utility helicopters flying over the rubble of Phoenix, and you can see the mountains off in the distance going up there, the deserty mountains with the little bit of greenery on top. You can see the smoke billowing over the rubble, and that's just basically a scene of the Z-20 helicopters taking, they can shuttle either troops or they can shuttle supplies from the mega fob or from the red zone out to combat outposts that are scattered across the city. And that is one of several ways they could deliver it. Now, another way I forgot to mention here is the monorail system. Now, once this was repaired and able to be used by the Chi-Coms, they used this as another way to shuttle troops and supplies from between the red zone, the mega fob, and the sports stadium, which was also a fob, which was further off the map here. So that's one way. And again, here's just this was the Broken Bow airport scene, but this would have applied on a much larger scale. This very same type of scene would have been on a much larger scale at the international airport here at Sky Harbor. And the ability for the troops to go out and do these types of patrols, like you see right here, you see a unit of it's about a company-sized element coming down. I don't have all the vehicles in it because I couldn't fit them all in it, but a company could be 12 to 14 vehicles in size. You see them coming down the street here amid all the rubble, and you see a couple RPG guys. Here's one, and here's another one, and here's a light machine gun guy firing his light machine gun like a little hunter-killer team here. Another guy over there. You see these guys hiding behind the rubble. These two are shooting. This guy's shooting. You see they came up from this manhole right here. This is how they moved around the city. They moved around underground and amid rubble. They would meander through all the rubble to get to where they needed to go, and they would be very careful and watch the streets before they would dart across to other rubble piles, which used to be buildings. But wherever they went, they had logistics. Now in the city, these guys would have been supplied by people bringing them ammo from up in the sewers. They would come up and up out of the maintenance tunnels, sewers, basements, whatever, what have you, and they would bring them their ammo to equip them for the battles. Be it ammo, be it food, be it water, whatever these men needed to survive, they would get from their underground base camps that would be brought up to them. You might have a few people carrying just logistical supplies to sustain these operations. Whereas the enemies, the invaders, the occupiers, they had logistical trucks, they had logistical helicopters, and they also had logistical planes coming into their megafobs. So that's just 3 different ways of transport. But each company would have its own logistical element in its headquarters platoon. And that would liaison with a larger headquarters company of a battalion, whichever battalion they belong to, be it a tank battalion, a mechanized infantry battalion, or even an artillery battalion. They would have a headquarters company which would be in charge of logistics. And that will be that would be discussed more in the next video. But here you see a fire base, which is another form of a combat outpost. It's a fire base. You see the HESCO barrier walls and these guard towers.